This is 4.4, trig functions of any angle. We're going to know how to evaluate trig functions of any angle and evaluate trig functions of real numbers. So we're going to move away from just having the unit circle and the special angles that we know on the unit circle. And this next slide is what I want you to write down. Everything on this next slide. Very important. I know. Trig function of any angle. All right. So we have a circle here with some unknown ordered pair x and y. And that x and y has a radius. And our theta is unknown. To be able to find the 6 trig functions, we would take and do these fractions. So to find the sine of theta, it's y over r. Cosine of theta is x over r. Tangent of theta is y over x. And then the 3 inverses are the same. You just reciprocate them. And then to find the value of r, we would use the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to draw a picture of a right triangle. So I'm going to take this point, x comma y, where that angle falls, and I'm going to drop down and then go across to the center. This forms my right angle. This segment here is my radius. It does not have to be 1 anymore, so that's my r. The segment going across is my x value, and then my segment going up and down is my y value. And we can then use these x, y, and r to find the 6 trig functions. And the way I remember it is when you do the unit circle trig, remember sine went with y, and cosine went with x. And then tangent, remember, was that y over x. So go ahead and write those down, and then we'll have an example on the next slide. And again, this is from Pythagorean theorem. That equation. X squared plus y squared equals r squared is the equation for a circle. And this is just in r equals, they just solved it already. Be careful when you're doing these. You don't need to write them down, but when I'm in quadrant 1, so like I have an angle that looks like this, and here's my theta, let's say 45 degrees. If I have some point over here, let's say 3 and 7, so we're over 3, and then we're up 7. And then I have my radius. What this is telling me is all of my sine values are going to be positive, and my cosines are going to be positive. Now if I erase this, you can see the rest. When I switch quadrants, my sines and cosine, positive and negatives, are going to change. If I look at quadrant 2, this means I'm going in a negative x direction, so my cosine is going to be negative, and then I'm going to go in a positive y direction, so my sine would be positive, and this would be like my angle is somewhere like up in here. In quadrant 3, down here, I'm going to go in a negative x direction and a negative y direction. Do you agree? So then my sine and my cosine would be negative, but what would happen to my tangent? A negative divided by a negative turns into a positive tangent. So this is just kind of explaining the 4 quadrants. And you have to be very, very careful with your signs, positive and negative signs, depending on where your angle falls in which quadrant. So this first one is given to us of a ordered pair -12, -5. I'd write this problem down. And we want you to find the sine, cosine, and tangent given this point. So I would recommend that you draw these pictures of your angle, where it falls. So this x value is -12, and my y value is -5. So which quadrant would this angle theta fall in? Quadrant 3, correct. So I'm going to go in a -12 direction. So this will be my x value, -12. And I'm going to go down 5. Let us draw it right here. And then I have a radius that is unknown. And this would be my theta. Now, my theta could be a positive theta, or it also could be that negative theta if you go in the other direction. All right. So we want to go and find the sine, cosine, and tangent. So if we think back to that 2 slides ago, what is the fraction in order to find the sine? Y over R. Do you agree? From that first slide that I had you write down, do we know the R? No. So we need to first, before we go out and find the trig functions, we have to make sure we know the x, the y, and the r. So we know the x and the y, we don't know the r. So how do you find the r? Pythagorean theorem. So x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Or in solved r form, r equals the square root of x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Remember that. So we would substitute x in, substitute y in. What was it?
-6.
Oh, why did I write -5 here? Thanks.
Oh,
x is -12. This is -5? Okay, -12. Oh, funny, yeah, -12. About -15. -12 equals r squared. So we get -12 times -12 is 144. -5 times -5 is 25. Add the 2 together, and then square root it. Can you have a negative radius? No. Your circle will never have a negative radius. It could have a negative x or a negative y. So now we have all 3 pieces, the x, the y, and the r. So if we want to go back over here, we could label this. All right. So first one, the sine. The sine is y over r. So what's our fraction going to be there? -5 over 13. How do we find the cosine? X over r. So x was -12, r is 13. And then tangent, y over x. So negative 5 over negative 12. Negative, negative turns into a positive.